Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Expansive CEO Podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Chapman, co host, Lauren Ammon. We're here together. Um, and today we are talking a lot about what it means to be a regulated entrepreneur versus a dysregulated entrepreneur. We're also going to talk about the big shift energetically that's happening in 2027. Um, that's a big one. That's a doozy. We're gonna to put it lightly, right?
Yes.
It's big. So we're gonna set the stage there with what's gonna be happening in 2027, how we're already starting to feel it come into the field in a lot of ways. And we'll talk about what it means, again, how to be that regulated entrepreneur, regulated person that is able to move in this new energy that we're going to be feeling. So, Lauren, first of all, congratulations.
Oh,
Congratulations,
thank
my
you.
friend. Yes, Lauren,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to toot her horn because she's probably not going to toot it herself. Uh, she finished the full International Human Design School analyst certification just this past week. And it was such a huge accomplishment. It takes 3.5 years, in case you're wondering, takes 3.5 years to go through this. It's a degree. It's so many classes, it's so much information, it's so much practice, and so I am just so proud of you, and it's so amazing, so I wanted to give you huge congratulations here on the podcast too for being done with that. You did it.
Thank you. Yes, it was a journey for sure, but one that was extremely transformational, beneficial, and I'm not gonna lie, it was challenging at times. It is a lot of information. I had never equated it to another degree, but that's exactly what it is. I mean, I had spent about the same same amount of time there as I did in college, roughly, right? So thank you. It was a bit surreal, and now it's like, oh, okay, check, hard work, done, felt great about it. How do we continue to be ourselves as who we were born to be, and how can we support others in figuring out their own energy to build the life and business that really works for them? And that's what really is my purpose. So I'm very, very blessed. Very blessed is it's almost too light. Very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I'm very humbled to be able to do this.
Mm. Well, and just knowing that you came into this world, like, that was the thing in the first place, was that when you really found, like, how much differently you were able to see yourself through this lens and how powerful and impactful that was to be able to, help facilitate that for others was, I mean, it fits right in with your right angle cross of service, right? So, what are you here to do? How are you here to serve? Um, and yeah, it's just, I was really reflecting this week on, I mean, there are not a lot of people, there are not a lot of analysts out there that have gone through and done the full certification like you have. And the level of, like, depth that we have in our team here, right, is like, it's really, really special. And so I just wanted to, again, give you all your flowers for having done that and really, claimed your expertise in that area.
Thank you. My 1-3 line is very happy. It's very satisfying.
Yes, your generator the satisfaction is there. Is that feeling good?
Yes. Yes. My depth and my investigation, my experimentation along with 3.5 years is very satisfying.
Good. Well, let's keep experimenting then.
Yes.
Keep it going. Keep it going. So, with that, I would love for you to talk a little bit about this big shift that's happening in 2027 energetically. Some of you may have heard, especially if you follow, human design creators elsewhere. It's in the conversation right now. Like, people are really starting to talk about it. But tell us what's happening in 2027.
Yeah. So for anybody who follows along with human design, 2027 is a big shift. And what that really means is that if you if you look at a profile of your own profile, I'm the right angle cross of service, and as the left angle cross of
Revolution or the rebel.
rev yes, revolution or the rebel. So there's also always a background frequency going on, and right now for the last 400 years, we've been in the I think it's the right angle cross of, planning, and the background frequency has been all about tribal. It's based in tribal frequency in the 3740, the channel of community, and all about building institutions that are about the bargain. You take care of me, I take care of you. And that's how we entered into, society has really been built on the bargains between the institutions that we've created as a form of protection and as a form of loyalty and an exchange, right? Think about um, an employment, right? The institution is you take care, I give you work, you give me pay, and things like that. So when you think about kind of the bargain, but as we're moving into 2027, we've also been on a one line. So a one line of foundation, really building something. Well, in 2027, we're moving to the left ankle cross of, I believe it's a sleeping phoenix, and it's going to be on a sixth line. So whoop, totally different um, perspective. And the writing or the cross of the phoenix, cross of the sleeping phoenix, is more rooted in individuality. And so now it becomes of, well, what are you being example of who you are as an individual? And when Hannah, you make a great point that we can already see the breakdown happening. I mean, think about some of the institutions that we're seeing kind of crumbling, and that we as individuals are out there kind of like, well, this isn't working for us anymore. This bargain isn't, I don't feel taken care of, or I don't feel as if this bargain is correct for me. Whether we all know that this is happening or not, or whether we're conscious of that shift, but 2027 is more about moving into this more individualistic, and I think we're seeing a lot of that too, but it's really rooted in the role model is how do we all ground ourselves, whether you're a sixth line or not. For those who are six lines like you, Hannah, it's going to be much more um, prominent maybe, and you might feel it maybe a little bit differently than someone like myself who's a 1-3, or, who's more of a right angle, but it is more about being a role model in and of yourself and how you make your specific contributions to the world and allow others to see that, but also as a reflection, allowing others to be their own authority, right? We are all our own authorities, and we have no right to be someone else's authority, nor does someone else have a right to be our authority. And that's really kind of what the background shift is going to move to. Now, this is going to take hundreds or so years to really settle into the background. So those of us living today probably won't feel the full effect. But because it's happening and because it has been happening and we've been making this transition, we can all feel something. And that's where kind of you were talking about this idea of, so then how do we translate this to the more regulated version of an entrepreneur and what that really means, owning your own business and being a role model, not just for yourself, but for other people.
Well, when you reminded me that it's 400 years, like we've been in the right angle cross of planning for 400 years, the first thing that came up was, hey, so we had the pension system, right? Where that bargain felt pretty okay for a while. Go back, hundreds of years before that, we had the serf system, right? Where people were protected by a lord of a manor, like that. They lived different lives than us in some ways, but in a lot of ways, it really wasn't that different, right? They had protection, they had somewhere to live, that all of those same pieces of life that we see today. But I mean, that's all within that last 400 years. If we can go back to the 1600s, right? If that's when that was coming in, and forgive me, I don't know all of my medieval history perfectly, but knowing that was a big part of the system at
Yes.
that time, right? And we look kind of, I don't know, it's so funny how we look down on that in some ways, now,
We think we've evolved way beyond it.
but we haven't,
We haven't.
right? That's literally the employment system as it stands right now for most people is that same way. And if we, look from an economic standpoint of, if anyone listens to the Investment Friday podcast that we put out every week, it's this K-shaped economy, we call it, where if you're on the top of the K, things are going up and it looks fine, right? That's the ruling class. That's the lords of old. And if you're on the bottom of the K, it's it's not feeling good. The bargain is not working, and
Right.
it's getting worse. It's not getting better. That's why in the K, like it's the downward slope is getting worse. Um, and so we are trading time for money, and for a lot of people, it's still not enough, right? The time I am trading you my time, my life for money, and it's not enough to survive in the economy that's been created in especially the last 100 years. Um, and so thinking about that broader scale of, like we are really truly seeing just how far the disparity has come, how big the chasm has gotten, and seeing that it does not work for most people. And we have to, like you said, we have to make a new bargain. We have to do something different. And for a lot of people, that has been turning to entrepreneurship over the last, decade for sure. Again, when we think on a 400-year scale, that's big. It means, at the we're literally at the year shift. And so the energy has been shifting. I feel like
Yes.
we've been seeing this happen. It's not brand new. Uh, but like you also said, then it will continue, the old will still have a little bit of a hold until we get further into the next cycle. Um, but it's that shift into entrepreneurship has also been really rocky
Mhm.
for a lot of people. And so that's the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit here is, maybe we did talk about this last time, but this like need to do it on your own. So there's this, the sleeping phoenix, very individual, lots of individual energy. I mean, even in my own chart, I have a lot of individual circuitry. Maybe we can talk about circuitry another time as well, since we mentioned it a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
That's my
'Cause
favorite.
yeah, well, it's not listed very easily. It's not like you can't look at a human design chart and it's not gonna tell you what is what.
No.
It's kind of one of those other details that, helps if you get a reading, someone can tell you about it. But this, like, feeling of, like, I know I'm here to make an individual contribution, and then thinking that, "Okay, it means I have to do everything by myself," and making sure that we don't that we are learning how to support ourselves and support others so that we, because we're not, it doesn't mean you're here to do everything by yourself. It does mean you're here to give your unique contribution, but that doesn't mean it's like your safety and security is all on you, all by yourself.
N no. No, and this is one of those instances where we talked about, if we can remember, listener, one of the first things we talked about was refining the definition of what certain words mean and kind of expanding our definitions about that. An individual in the world of human design is more about mutation versus being alone or doing something alone. And I think oftentimes when we don't necessarily understand kind of what's happening in the background, the universe is always interacting with us and we're always interacting with it. And we're being, whirled around in space at, I don't know how fast the earth moves, like 400,000 miles an hour or something. I don't know.
13,000 miles an hour. I don't know.
Who knows? I say 400,000, you say 13. It's probably somewhere in the middle. Who cares? But we're whirling around and, we're always interacting with the energy around us. And that's oftentimes why I think we get so lost in our lives is that we don't understand. Oftentimes there's just so much influence that we're constantly dealing with that we don't feel, we don't recognize. And that's part of what we recognize is that when we talk about these entrepreneurship right now is that we've built entrepreneurship on the old bargains, right? It's the exchange of time and money. And go out on the market. How many times are you going to run into something of I help coaches and consultants, not chase, exchange of time and money, and I get you 967 leads in the matter of 14 seconds, and you'll never have to work again. And it's kind of like, okay, that's also not the bargain. That's not going to work. Um, but the concept of individuality is more about mutation in that, when we talk about circuitry and listeners, this is not necessarily one of those instances where we can say, like, stop, look at your chart, because it can appear in so many different places in your chart. But individual circuitry is the most abundant in a human design chart. And most everybody has it, you know what? I would say at least one channel. I mean, if you've got, other than being a reflector, right? You likely have at least one channel or some activations that are defined in your chart that are individualistic. And it's more about bringing mutation, being a conduit for change in this world. And that's all predicated on or based on your type. How are you approaching the world? And if you're approaching it correctly, well, then you can be a conduit for mutation, not just for yourself, but for empowering everybody around you. And that's kind of what the next phase is all about, is being so true to yourself because you understand and accept yourself, and you accept the nuances of your contribution, allow others to make their contributions in their nuanced ways. That's what that's what I believe. That's my interpretation. That's what the next phase is all about, is how do we bridge the gap between I am person, hear me roar, in my own expertise, while allowing everybody else to do the same. And as we talked about in the last episode, is like our puzzle pieces, right? How do our puzzle pieces come together? How do the cutouts get filled with someone else's extension so that we can all build and expand each of our unique individual contributions to change and transform the whole.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a very, using the term background frequency again, it's a very
Yeah.
different background frequency than what we've been in. And the other interesting piece that I wanna illuminate here too is that the way that these things all line up and talk about the same things, whether it's astrology or human design, or it's so fascinating to me because we also just moved from Pluto and Pluto and Capricorn. Again, also all about the institution, all about, being in this very um success driven, outward outward markers of success, like all of that, in and the energy in the collective, and moving into Pluto and Aquarius, which I think came in last November. And so we're in this new era of Pluto and Aquarius as well, which is all about the individual, about innovation, about your individual contribution, about, you know, uniqueness and quirkiness, and like bringing in unusualness is actually like the term that comes with Aquarius as well. That like how closely that maps over to this exact, okay, well, yeah, so I just think that's fun that we can talk about it from all these different angles, and it's still coming up with the same collective um, marker, that
Yes.
we are moving away from, again, these huge institutions ruling everything, and by extension, like ruling our lives in a lot of ways, into this more individual, innovative, um, unique expression,
Yes.
collectively and individually.
Yes. I mean, it's quite fascinating, right? I'm kind of excited to see, like, oh, what's going to happen? What's it going to look like? Again, we're probably not going to see a ton of change just based where we are in the timeline, right? We're literally in the actual move over. So this has probably been happening. If it's a 400-year span, this has been happening for the last 200 years, right? The change has been happening because you kind of, when you look at a
Spectrum.
cycle, at least, yeah, when you look at a cycle, and at least in human design, you kind of look at the halves, right? The first half is all about kind of like getting yourself there. The second half is leading you into it. So for the last 200 years, we've been leading into this. And again, I'm sure if we go, Christ, yeah. If we went and look at some of the biggest things that have happened in the world, it's probably like, okay, yeah, we said a little downfall of the institution here. But then we're moving towards, so 200 years from now, so 22, it's weird to say, 22,
Any
26, they'll be in like the thick of it and then, be then moving towards whatever's coming next. I haven't looked because quite honestly, I'll be long dead by then and I don't kind of don't care. Right. But, but looking at those, because I actually sat in on something, a webinar through someone who has gone through the IHDS as well, of saying like, well, it's a six line, kind of background frequency. So it will be all kind of about like the role model, kind of seeing the bigger picture, looking at what's next, kind of this focus on the future, this vision of what could be. But even if you don't have six lines in your profile, again, for you, you might feel it, Hannah, way more than someone like me, but I have six lines in my profile. Or I'm sorry, in my chart. And it'll be in those places where I might feel kind of this, I don't know. I have no idea what it might feel like, but kind of this surge, or at least this new focus energetically or mechanically on these six lines and what they mean and how they come forward. And, for me, one is my intuition, my gate 57. Listener, take a hot second. This is in your splenic center, the little brown triangle to the side of the left side of your chart. Gate 57 is a gate of intuition. Mine's on the sixth line. Who knows what that really means for me, but it's all about stepping into, and that's where we come back to this idea of regulation, is that, you and I talk a lot about this dysregulated versus regulated. And that's really where I think a lot of our work is rooted, is how do we support you in being regulated, not just in and of yourself, because that's the most important, but it's also helping to understand what's going on around you. Who are the people you're interacting with? Because they all have an influence on your energy. And that's not because they're actively trying to, or at least most aren't actively trying to have an influence. But if you don't understand yourself and understand how your energy is designed to work, you can get so caught up in all of the frequencies going around you that you become dysregulated, simply because you're just not yet aware of how to not identify with it.
Yeah. Yes, and I mean, we'll have to tell this story when I'm a little bit further removed and can see it fully. Um, but I mean, I still experience this within myself, right? When I become dysregulated in different ways and have to talk it through, sometimes it is I have to like talk about it with someone else who sees me very clearly, whether that's Lauren or my husband, or a few other people that I trust very deeply to see me for me. And we go like, why are you doing that thing if it's making you feel that way? Like, oh, yeah, I don't know why. Wait a second.
Yeah. Oh,
Wait,
somebody is influencing me and I don't know how to, I didn't see it.
right. Yes. To kind of like tap in with the six line energy as well. I'm a 6-2 profile. Again, listener, that's when you see, like, it's one of the very first things you see on your chart. It'll be number/number. Mine is 6/2. Lauren's is 1/3. That's your profile. I am a 6-2 profile. That's the role model, is the six line. The two line is called the hermit. But as soon as you say, like, we're all going to be, like, that's the frequency, is we're going to be like, what's next? What's the bigger picture? Like, my whole body just relaxes. I can't tell you how much I'm like, I can't wait for that, right? Because that feels like home to me, because I have literally 8 six lines in my chart, which is a lot.
Mhm.
We only have 24 options. There's only 24 placements, and 8 of mine are on a six line.
Yeah.
It's very, again, like,
33% of that.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and it's also, sometimes it can be really hard to constantly, that's another thing that I feel a lot, is like, sometimes I have had instances where it, like, I just wanna be in the clouds, or that's what it feels like. I just wanna be up there in the vision. I just wanna be, seeing everything from up top. I'm like, I don't wanna go down there. I just wanna stay up here on my perch, which also makes sense because that is still the phase that I'm in life as well. right? Like, again, for a sixth line, we're doing a little tangent here. If you have a sixth line, especially in your profile, 6'2", 4'6", 6'3",
3-6.
3'6", those are the four, right? If you have a sixth line in your profile, we have this three-phase life where, from 0 to 29-ish till your Saturn return, you're trying everything, experimenting, throwing stuff at the wall, falling down, getting back up, all of you're doing the trial and error. You're like a 3, sort of, but not quite.
Yes, and but not quite. Yes.
We don't have the same resilience as a true 3 line, but we have to go through the trial and error.
Yes.
Then with all that beating that we kinda take, we go up on the roof. So from about 30-ish to about 50-ish, it's called going up on the roof, and so that's literally what I just described. Like, I just wanna be up in the clouds. I just wanna be up in my perch. I just wanna observe from up here, and I'll point things out to you, but I
Yep.
don't wanna be down in it.
Right.
I was down there. I don't wanna be down there.
Right, because the phase you're in holds such an importance because 0 to 30, we'll just call it that, right? The first third of your life, hopefully, right? It's all about the subjectivity. Like you're going through the shit. Like you're putting yourself through the shit because you don't yet know that's the point. You don't know that the trial and error is there because when you go up on the roof and where you are, that's where you're gaining objectivity. You're sitting up, you're aloof and you're up on the roof. I didn't mean to say that, but I should make a little alliterate or rhyme out of it. But you're up on the roof to gain objectivity about what you've gone through. Because at 50 or on your Chiron return, you're coming down and being like, oh, I see it. And you become a leader through the role model. That's the role gate of the sixth gate. But yeah, where you are right now, it's really important. It's really important for you to stay up on the roof and be like, yeah, honey, that's not working. Th- No, no, honey, I lived that. That one's not gonna work. And sixths are great because it's kind of like do as I say, not as I do. A- and I can see other people being like really annoyed by that of like, what? What are you doing? But if you understand the beauty, that's the role, that's the contribution of the sixth line is to sit up on the roof and gain objectivity through the shit that they've gone through, that you've gone through, so that you can come down after your Chiron return and be like, this is what it means to be me. And to serve as that role model of truly being yourself. So yeah, you have to have the point where you are right now. And that's why I go back. That's why I'm so obsessed with like all of our contributions
Yeah.
is because, looking at me, you can be up on their roof. That's where you're supposed to be. And I can give you the room, the space and the whatever, because I know that that's where you are. And you can look at me. I'm going to say this. You can look down on me. That's not what I mean, but you can look to me from
Directionally
the roof.
down.
Yes, you can look directionally down to the foundation and be like, hey, Lauren, what if we tried this right now? And I'm the one who can go and be like, no, Hannah, that doesn't work, Hannah. Try something different. You know, gotta try that one again. And then, but that's the beauty of it. And that's why it's understanding like, but just imagine if that you and I didn't have this, right? And we're trying to do this together, how dysregulated we could be. Because there's a potential for me to be like, the hell is she doing? Why isn't she down here with me? Well, you're not supposed to be. And you might feel pressure. Let's just put this, right? With my defined root center, listener, that's the brown or whatever square at the very bottom of your chart. I have a defined one, which means I process and feel pressure consistently. Hannah's is open. She doesn't. She doesn't feel that consistently. So imagine if we didn't understand this and you're down here on my one and I'm just putting all kinds of pressure on you, unbeknownst to me, right?
Yeah.
And you're feeling like that you have to be down here trying to discover all these things when that's not your role and your contribution, and how dysregulated our relationship would be, and it likely wouldn't work.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, when you describe that, that's what I was in before, right? As far as not in an X squared, but in the firm I was at before I left, before I became, my the true entrepreneur self. Um, yeah, just thinking about all of the pressure that I was under from, the influence of others to be and do things, be someone that I'm not, do things in a way that's not correct for me, right? But that pressure was intense. And I didn't know human design at that point. That would be fascinating too. Not enough for me to go ask or dig any further, but it would be fascinating to to see the dynamics of the group that I was in as well. Because yeah, looking back, I'm like, oh, I definitely see patterns um that were occurring. And with this information now, right? It's like, oh, okay, I can see. I see what you did there. I see how I reacted to that. Uh,
Yeah.
and moving forward, it's just it doesn't make any sense to me anymore to not have this information about people, right? And it's not that how do I say this? Because I've seen some other like discourse online that was interesting. How some people feel like they really don't like human design because it feels like prescriptive. Like you're telling me what I have to be and telling me what I have to do. I was like, just seeing comments like that sometimes I'm like, wow, like I've never felt that way. I've never felt like it was like, oh, well, you're supposed to be this way. I've only ever felt it. I mean, I've heard other people say that they've gotten a reading or someone told them you're a generator, so you're not here to be an entrepreneur. You're here to build other people's stuff. Like you're a projector. You're not supposed to do it. You're supposed to take naps every day, right? Like
Oh, well,
that exists in this
okay.
space. Lauren has things to say.
I do. My judgmental opinions have a lot to say about that, but I'm gonna leave that for another time.
Right. But that
Right.
that overarching piece of like this is telling you how you have to be or what you're supposed to be versus I have never felt like it was prescribing to me how I was supposed to be, just this is the energy that exists.
This is how I'm designed.
This
I have the choice whether I do it or not.
right. Like
I have
that's
the
totally
choice.
up to you.
I have the choice to experiment with that or not. And, at the same time, also, listener, if you're a generator, you can absolutely be an entrepreneur. Projectors, you don't have to take naps. I'm just going to say it at this moment. That person probably had no idea what the hell they were talking about or interpreted like was so regimented in the information because that's not the intention. Hi, we're both generators and we're entrepreneurs.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and that also that, saying that if you as the listener have ever had a reading that felt very disempowering or um I'm not gonna say like it can be confusing sometimes because there's just a lot of information. But if it felt, like, oh, like I don't want to be that. I don't like what I heard about that, right? Or again, you felt very disempowered or like prescribed in some way. That's an definitely invitation. Come talk to us.
Come
Come
sit
see
with
Lauren.
us. Yes. Yes.
Come play. Come see what it looks like in an empowering setting rather than a disempowering one. And again, getting back to that regulated space, how we use it as a tool for regulation and to be being regulated. I love this. I'm actually going to share this little screen here. This one. So we've been talking about the regenerative wealth program lately, um, which is started the date this is going to be released on April 28th. This episode dropping on April 28th. And we had originally planned to like kick off the cohort on April 29th. We would like to have a few more participants in before we get started. So we're going to hold off on the first actual um, cohort date, like the first module date. we're going to wait a couple of weeks for that, but we are accepting people in, and we are getting started. The first part of this process is to get your full human design reading with Lauren. And so that gives us a couple of weeks to get all of that in as well. So everyone who comes into the program gets a full reading to start off so that we can then move through the rest of the program knowing more about you, you knowing more about yourself, so we can help ground this regulation. So if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, I didn't know if I was going to be able to participate, give us a check it out. We'll put the link in the show notes, and we'll put it on social media and in a few different places, so you can have a conversation with us, see if it's the right thing. But here, this is literally part of the sales page that we've been talking about. Like, what does it look like to be dysregulated versus regulated? And on this page, we have the dysregulated entrepreneur versus the expansive entrepreneur. And what's happening, right? That dysregulated spot, we kind of put it into a money frame here. In some ways, like, you're looking for those big flashy opportunities. You're looking for things that feel exciting or impressive, right? That's a big one. If you're doing something for show versus truly for your own safety and stability, that is a place of dysregulation. Looking to, I put implementing advanced strategies prematurely. That can also, I've heard it said, you know, doing a step H strategy when you're on really like step B, right? And like you need a step B to C strategy, not a B to H jump, right? Like that's another part of it. Like, I need to be faster. I need to be further along than I am. Again, in the money side, hunting for massive, complex tax write-offs rather than like, hey, you know what? None of us really want to pay all that much in taxes, but
Yeah, never.
at the same time, if you make money, you're going to pay taxes.
Yes.
Uh, and if you try to write everything off, that literally means you don't have anything left to save for your future. And so we're really like looking at all of these different ways that dysregulation shows up. What are some of the other ones, Lauren, that we've talked about recently? Because we didn't put
Yeah.
everything here.
No, but this is what we have in front of for our listener. We what Hannah's describing is more based in money, right? The big flashy opportunities. But I also equate that to your business. Like, what are the big flashy opportunities in your business, right? What are the methods that everybody's using that, we get all these as entrepreneurs, we get these emails from anywhere, or these DMs from anywhere. Like, let me help you get 60 qualified leads and you can start making six figures every month within 30 days. And you're like, in the beginning, you're like, "Oh my gosh," just starting out this journey, it sounds super sexy and super cool of like, "Well, yeah, I want the things that are gonna help me if you left a W-2. I want the things that are gonna help me replace my salary as quickly as possible. Let me figure this out," right? You get enticed and seduced by these big flashy opportunities, or even in business, implementing the advanced strategies too early, right? Uh, I remember starting off where it was like, oh my gosh, when I started to piece everything together from a website to email to point of sale kind of things, it was like, and I had all of these things together. I was like, why don't I just find something that has all of them in one place? That would be a lot easier. That also costs a whole hell of a lot more money when you have a big system like that. And I wasn't ready for that. But I convinced myself I needed to pay for these things because, an all in one shop is a lot easier than four different shops. And I have to figure out how to get the four different shops to talk to one another. But if I just had one system, they'd all talk. But then you have to figure out that system and you're paying for that system. And it's all just this mind fuck of, like, how do I start to piece all of this together as an entrepreneur? And you start to feel dysregulated, not just in terms of your money, because you're now trying to purchase so many things to quote unquote make your life easier. But now your time is dysregulated because you're trying to build skills in systems that, quite honestly, you have no idea what you're doing. but you convince yourself, oh, well, what we were talking about last week is I should be able to figure this out for myself. So let me dive in and focus more on figuring out how to make this system work versus putting my genius out into the world. And so I think all of these, all of what we call dysregulated can apply to money, to time, to energy, and just feeling so incredibly overwhelmed and that you're just burning every candle at every end just to keep yourself afloat, to prove to everybody else that you can make this work.
Right. It's such a that's such a good example, um, because we hear it from everywhere. Did I say this? I think I actually said this on the Investment Friday podcast, from last Friday, that, if all you're you're hearing from other people, like, that how hard something is, how bad things are, if they're, like, really going on the fear, they're literally trying to dysregulate you because 'cause they're probably trying to sell you something, right? It's like their solution to the problem is going to, you know, fix everything. And so other like, the marketing world is very much based on getting you into that dysregulated state so that you will then pay for the solution, whether it's the right solution or not. Or it's like a
Yes.
solution to a very narrow problem that, as we've experienced and probably most entrepreneurs have experienced, can cause ripple into other things because it wasn't the right solution for the holistic issue.
Yes. Oh my God. You bring up such a good point of that. Yes. That certain marketing tactics, I won't say all of them because I think there's a lot of good marketing tactics out there, but certain ones can prey on our fear. And to your point, intentionally make us dysregulated. Um, and how unnerving that is. And that's why we incorporate what we do. That's why we incorporate human design and gene keys to support you in understanding how you're actually designed to be work. Because that's actually one of the biggest points of freedom that I have experienced is that for someone like me, as we all talked about numerous times on this podcast, I have a completely open ego. There are no gates coming out of this darn thing, but there's one gate pointing to it, and there's a lot of pressure on it. I can be easily manipulated into being sold to because it's like, oh, what if I buy this thing or I have this thing? Well, then I can prove, bleh, insert whatever. For me specifically, the message is, well, I can prove I'm busy building skills to show my talent and prove that I can be busy and turn my power into something really meaningful. Okay, great. Congratulations, Lauren. That's not what you're here to do. Um, so, of just looking at and understanding your own energy and how you're designed to be used, that has really helped me say no to things that before in my gut I knew I was like, "Ugh, it's not. I don't think this is the right thing for me." But it was kind of that the my not self talking. No, 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 no. This will help you prove your value. This will help you get you this. This will get you this. Again, with my open G, it'll put you in a direction to get you to go somewhere. That has been the biggest point of freedom is like accepting that, hey, I can fall prey to a lot of what's the word I'm looking for, Hannah? Fear-based marketing strategies
Mhm.
that that feed on my most detrimental not self talk.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, and that, you know, that's one of the reasons when we talk about human design, and I've shared this before too, like, one of the most important aspects that I work with people on, whether it's an X squared or an expansive CEO, is to learn to listen to your authority very deeply, because your authority will not steer you wrong if you really truly listen to it. If you give yourself the right space to, be able to learn how to feel it, if you're sacral like Lauren and I both are, what does a no actually feel like? What does a yes actually feel like in your gut? If you're emotional, How much time do you need? You really like, you need everyone who has an emotional authority needs time, but you as a specific individual will have your own need of how much time you need, how many days you need to come back to a decision. It's going to be individual to you. Um, but really understanding your authority is such a game changer. And I feel like that's one of the biggest pieces of coming into that, making regulated decisions, is just understanding your authority.
Yes,
How do you feel about that?
100%. And becoming okay with that your mind will fight you the entire way, and to really start trusting that inner authority of this is what I deeply, deeply feel, because every authority is a bodily knowing in some way. Now, that all translates very differently, whether you're emotional, sacral, splenic, projected, projector, ego, whatever. They're all going to feel differently, and they're going to I'm going to use the word manifest in meaning they're going to be expressed differently, but it is all a feeling, and your mind will fight you along the way. And to recognize that once you are regulated in and of yourself, you are going to start making decisions that in the very beginning, your mind is like, the hell you doing? And you just have this, you just got to stick to your guns and recognize, I'm going to try it this way. The feeling in my body is telling me one thing while your mind is telling you another, of really honoring and trusting your inner authority, that it will lead you, even if lead you in the right direction, even if you think in that moment it is the most crazy decision on the planet. And that's why, and that's what we support you in honoring your own regulation as we work together, of coming back and saying, hey, this is what I experienced. And you're like, yeah, well, that makes total sense that you experienced this because of, X, Y, and Z, whatever it is in your energy, or whatever it is, based on how your energy is designed. And I think that is one of the most transformative places, is when you really start to honor your inner authority. And I'll just say it from my point of view. We've talked about split definitions so many times. For me, my head is split from my body. And I know if we show my chart, but when I say that, is that I have gotten to a space now where my mind will be going 900 miles an hour about something, and just overthinking and being like, well, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And my body's just like, yeah, it's not the right time. It'll happen. It's okay. But I've gotten to a point where, because I'm sacral authority, yes, but because it's connected to my spleen, I'm actually a pure splenic generator. And it's about trusting my intuition, and it's just what I found is this really weird calm when it's a yes. Just
Mm.
this like, okay, yeah, sure. There's no emotion to it. There's no high or low. It's just like, yeah, this is it. There's no excitement to it, I guess I should say. But when it's a no for me, it's like, my body's like, no, alert, 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 like alarms going off. And I can feel it, like, how do I say this? Like buzzing inside of me, like, no, 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 this is not safe for you. This is not safe for you. And just to be able to live with my mind being like, girl, what's going on here? And my body's just like,
Understanding that disconnect is important. Um it's not disconnected in a bad way. Like, you're not
no,
disconnected from yourself in a bad, but
no.
understanding that, oh, that's my brain again, like you said, like the hamster is just sprinting. But that's not where the decision making comes from. And it comes from when the body is calm, right? Like, understanding, like, those different pieces of you. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where the regulation comes from, because I can feel, I'll say this, I can feel dysregulated in that, because my mind is moving 900 miles an hour, but my body's just like, still, I don't know how else to say it other than that. It can feel dysregulating or disorienting as probably
Mhm,
maybe a better word for it, but to to know that that's actually my energy re-regulating itself, is that eventually I recognize that my mind will slow down. It will still try to insert itself into the process. And it's just a matter of learning to ignore it, or at least just looking at it and being like, okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks for your worry. Thanks for your pressure. Thanks for your whatever. We're good. Deuces, but uh, it is a little disorienting. And that's where, I think that you and I really help support of like knowing that that's okay. Like that's part of the process. And to truly honor yourself. And again, kind of back to the beginning of the conversation of that sixth line, even if you don't have a sixth line, being the role model in and of yourself and being okay that your process is wildly different than everybody else's.
mhm. I love that, and so let's talk on the other side, the right side of this little chart, if you're watching on YouTube, the expansive or the regulated entrepreneur, like, what does that look like? So Lauren just described a lot of that, like, how do you come into regulation, through decision making? And I think it's important to point out too that, again, it's not always gonna it doesn't mean you're gonna make every decision without the mental gymnastics, right? You're not ever you're not necessarily gonna just be like this serene.
Yeah. Your mental talk is never gonna go away. Is never gonna go away.
Yeah, it will be there. It will be there
Mm.
as the lovely little roommate that it is. Part, if you there are some people that don't have an inner monologue, which is
Oh,
right?
oh,
Like,
can I ha
what?
can I meet those people? Can I just talk? Can I just listen to your brain?
Right.
Oh,
What do you mean?
yeah.
Some
What does
people
that
do not
look
have
like?
the inner monologue in that same way. So I guess if that's you, if you're like, "I don't ever hear anything." Okay, congratulations.
No. We envy you.
So chatty up here all the time. But so it doesn't mean that we're getting rid of that piece of you. It simply means that we're, again, like, integrating it, helping you understand when, again, the hamster is sprinting on the wheel in your brain. Like, okay, let the hamster get its energy out. That's okay. We're going to
Yes.
regulate in another way, especially through regulating the body and a lot of regulating the emotions, regulating the body, and doing so in service to that, regulating the financial situation, regulating your business structure. We bring that nervous system regulation into the room through, like, what it says here, creating predictable, consistent cash flow, building simple, powerful financial foundations, helping you make aligned, repeatable decisions. Those things sound very boring
Yes.
in a lot of ways, right? It's not flashy. It's not the, hey, I can get you on stage where you can, make $1 million in one weekend. That's sounds flashy. It might work for if you get up there and you are like are in your regulatedness in that space, more power to you. Absolutely. Like, if you then, I'm going to put the caveat here, if you sell that $1 million from stage and then have a regulated repeatable system to then distribute those funds, to then
Yeah.
capture those funds, to then create the safe foundations to receive those funds, because that's what I tend to see. That's what I see most often, is that when people do have that big hit, or they do start, bringing in clients at a quicker pace, they've got all this money coming in, and it's just there's no systems in place to hold it. So it still feels very dysregulating. There's still the hamster is still going, like, you're not doing the right things. You're not being smart with this. You're not, you know, you're feeling more and more overwhelmed with it, even though it seems like a good problem to have, and it is.
Yes.
But we need to have the foundational systems, and that creates the regulation of, oh, okay, well, I just went out and sold $1 million from stage. I then had all of the buckets, financial buckets that I needed for it. Everything had a place to go. I understand how I'm going to pay my team. I understand how I'm going to pay myself for the next 6 months. That means if you're ready to get back out on stage in 3 months, you can go because you have the systems in place to receive more of that.
Yes. Right. And let's be clear. We're all for the big flashy things. We're not saying those are incorrect. Those actually could be the very big correct thing for you. But back to Hannah's beautiful point is, hey, let's just make sure we got what's working on the back end, so you don't have to worry about the aftermath of the big flashy thing and how successful you were. But you have the foundation that allows you to then, as you said, turn right back around and go do your big flashy thing again because that's what's correct. And knowing that the funnel on the back end and the structures are there to support you and that you can remain regulated in your genius versus being dysregulated in trying to figure out all the stuff on the back end.
Yes, and I have one really good example. I have a client who, uh, she's absolutely wonderful. She's actually really good at launching. She does a phenomenal job of launching her programs, or launching retreats, and she didn't even realize that. She would get really dysregulated, um, in the months where, you know, she's not having a lot of clients come in. And so when we did a Zoom out and literally looked at her QuickBooks and looking at the profit and loss statement and looking how income would come in over the year, we looked at, oh, this was a big month. What happened here? Oh, I launched this. All right. Well, then what about this month? That month was really big. What happened there? Oh, I launched this. And then you could go back years and see this pattern. And she had never once had anyone tell her that she is amazing at launching. Like, this is what happens when you are excited. She's a manifester, by the way.
I was gonna say, please tell me, like, please, the universe, please just yes, yes.
She's a manifester. So when her creative surge is, here's the thing. I'm so excited to share this with people. Here's what's correct. And she launches it. It's phenomenal. What we learned also, so that was one piece. And she was like mind blown. She had never seen that before in that way. She just beat herself up in the months where she wasn't launching something. Right. And just really would get really hard on herself. And that was part of it. Okay, let's look at the pattern. Now you're a manifester, right? So what's the next piece? So she launched a retreat, went phenomenal, but it was a little bit too long in its process of she launched it, she sold it, it was great, but she was on the outs of her creative cycle by the time the retreat got there. And she went through it and she did it and she delivered the whole thing and it was beautiful and transformative and all the things. And she was friggin' exhausted for weeks. She was out of commission for way longer than usual. And then again, the question was like, what happened? Why, what's going on? Like, oh, well, you were out of your creative cycle by that point. Right. So we have to now, when we do the next one, make sure it's just a little bit closer. Right. And so that you're still in the energy and that there's enough support around you that you're not, um, doing the retreat all by yourself. Put those things in place because you're a manifester. So you only have your creative cycle will go and then you have to rest. Your rest cycle will come and you'll need to take that time. And the next year, she did the retreat again, sold it, amazing, super easy, opened it up to her community and they were like, we've been waiting for this. Launched, it was beautiful. And she had everything moving a little bit more quickly together. And on the backside, again, more regulated coming out of it because we again had looked like, let's make this match up to who you are and how your system works. It's very different. Um, and she's just a phenomenal example of moving into more regulation more and more over the last, gosh, we've been working together, I think two full years now. And it's practice and it's again seeing patterns over time and She's not like launching retreats all the time, right? So it's like, yeah,
Right.
so we have to have those reps and to understand. But yeah, I just thought that was a really good example of making it match. Like I'm a generator, I'm a manifesting generator. I'm a very different energy imprint than her as an emotional manifester. But that doesn't mean, ooh, this is coming full circle back to, do as I say, not as I do. What works for me is not correct for her. And so part of my gift is to be able to see her for her and say, hey, this is, these are all the different pieces of you and all the pieces of your business and all the things that work. And what if you tried this because you are an emotional manifester? Because I would never, like, the stuff that works for her doesn't work for me. So it can't be like, I did it this way, so you do it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
It was never gonna work out. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's not the most successful strategy. Yeah.
In a lot of ways,
Yeah.
so many ways. But yeah, creating that regulation, creating the systems on the back end so that you can be yourself fully. The reason I use that example, that retreat example, is similar to the, if you sell from stage example, so that you can be your full self in that delivery as well from a regulated place. Again, if you're the most regulated person in the room, you are so powerful from stage when you are the most regulated person in the room. That other people are able to tap into that. They're able to feel that from you. If you go up on stage and you're full dysregulated and your mind is everywhere and your heart is everywhere and you're like holding down your emotions, people feel that too. So it's again this like full ecosystem of how do we get you to a place where you're good. You feel good in your body, you feel good in your finances, you feel good in your emotions, and you can move from that place more often.
Yes. And be okay when you hit points where you're not fully regulated, because that still happens, right? That's not to say that once you learn it, you're never dysregulated. No, no. Life's always going to throw something at your way, and you've got to learn through that as well. And that's what, that's where the support comes at. It's not just about your money, right? When we work together, it's not just about money and regulating that. It's regulating your time, all rooted in your highest energy. So you can always come back to that, rediscover yourself through the process, align, realign, and expand in a different way.
Yeah. Yep. Lots of trial and error.
Oh,
We've both been through it a lot,
have to tell me twice about
right?
trial and error.
A lot of different ways. Well, I think we can leave it there
Yes.
for today. And again, if you are listening, if you're interested in the Regenerative Wealth Program, again, just another reminder, it's 6 weeks of live material. Oh, I also wanted to mention that in case if there's something, I mean, it's going to be kind of summary time for a lot of people. If you're going on vacation, if you're going to miss a week, it's also fully recorded. So this is um, we're delivering it live, but it is also fully recorded. So every participant will get both. So you will be there any all the weeks that you can be there live for the class itself. And if you have to miss for any reason, if you're on vacation, if something else is happening, you can do the recorded version. It's there. So you're not going to
Yes.
miss anything. So I wanted to mention that too, because sometimes that is the case with the program. It's like, well, if you miss it, then SOL.
Right.
No.
No.
It's literally already recorded. It's there. The information, like you will have both, and you will have both forever. You'll have the access to the online course. You'll have the money meditations. You will have that full reading with Lauren. You'll have that integration session with me on the backside as well to make sure you are ready to launch whatever it is that you are launching new or relaunching or retooling. So yeah, we're super excited for this and we
Yes.
would love to talk to you. If you have any questions, you can click that link. You can jump on my calendar, ask questions. Um, and if you're like, yeah, I'm already in, just there's buy now button too. You can do that. So
Yes.
Love to have you. Love to answer any questions you have.
Absolutely.
Anything else today for you,
No,
Lauren?
no. This is a great wrap up.
All right. Well, we're good then. We will see you next time, and thanks for being here.
Bye, friends.